Wholesalers, it's Rob Shore at Wholesaler Masterminds, and you may be thinking to yourself, Rob, you're thinking, what do you have besides this amazing podcast? And I'm so glad you asked. Wholesaler Masterminds has an assortment of product and services all designed around the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. As an example, we have coaching services designed to help you power wash your practice, whether you have 2 years or 22 years. We'll offer you speaking live engagements at divisional or national sales meetings. Our scheduling service has dedicated professionals trained in the art of getting you more appointments, Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers. Our Speakers Bureau brings you amazing speakers and processes to get better return on investment out of those speakers. And finally, our partnership, our newest partnership with Allego. If you have Allego and want to get the Wholesaler Masterminds channel on your Allego platform, please let us know. Wholesaler Masterminds, happy to bring you this podcast and so much more. Wholesaler Masterminds, the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. The thing I'm thinking today is about your confidence. And if there's one thing that I know about wholesalers, it's that wholesalers do not lack in confidence. And if they do lack anything in confidence, they don't let that show on the outside. But our guest today is going to poke around a little with me on this whole notion of confidence and explore a little bit about just how authentic that confidence might be. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Marc Vahanian is a 7 Keys coach who specializes in working with financial services professionals. As an executive coach with over 20 years of experience, Marc works with a range of clients, from race car drivers to Fortune 500 executives and their teams. He's been featured in People magazine, on CBS's 48 Hours, and E! Channel's The Golden Globes, among many others. His book, Authentic Confidence, The 7 Keys, outlines his approach. He works with professionals on clarity of purpose, power of passion, how to craft and present narratives that inspire trust and communicate the bigger why. Marc Vahanian, welcome to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's delightful to have you here, sir. So, of all the things that leapt off the page as I read the notes about your background, it was your work that you did with Johnnie Cochran. And for those of you that may not recall who Johnnie Cochran is because you have not remembered your history, let's start with you explaining, Marc, who was Johnnie Cochran? Why was he so famous in his day? And then I want to poke around a little bit on what you did with him, please.
Well, I guess Johnnie is certainly best known for being the lead attorney in what was called the trial of the century, which was the O.J. Simpson trial. But I had worked with Johnnie for many years prior to that famous trial. And so when I began working with him, I got to know him already as one of the most dedicated, charismatic, and gracious people, as well as a very successful attorney already. But when the O.J. trial came along, I was working with him in the capacity really as a combination of body, mind, fitness. And one of the central pieces that I would do, I would meet with him at 6 a.m. in the morning, 4 mornings a week. So it's before he went in for trial every day. And I would say one of the most important things we did, besides just getting moving, was to do some centering work. Now, he was already just a pristine professional, ultimate. But even he, under that kind of pressure and pace of that trial, he was the one who had us move our sessions from 3 mornings a week to 4 mornings. And I have to say, I know the outcome of the trial is something that some of us may not be thrilled about, but he is just one of the most incredible people I've ever had the great honor of both getting to know, getting to be of service to, and I'm very proud of it.
I was thinking about that when I read that. I mean, who his client was is not the story for this podcast. the story for this podcast is, what did you do with a high profile public figure who was jammed into the same pressure cooker as Marsha was, right?
Yes.
As Chris Darden was,
Yeah.
as any of those, F. Lee Bailey, I mean, it goes on and on. All of those folks had to perform optimally. And one of the things that was so interesting about Johnny was his calmness. You know, I didn't ever see him, because I watched the trial. I didn't ever see him get riled to a overly emotional state. You said you worked on centering. What were some of the things that you talked about? I mean, and I think this is translatable, wholesalers, from the perspective of, you know, if Mark can help a Johnny Cochran keep his cool when hundreds of millions of people are watching a trial on any given day and he's on no bigger a public stage, maybe Mark's got some nuggets for us about staying centered and keeping our cool when we got to go in and make a presentation to a panel at a Merrill Lynch.
You know, it reminds me at Johnny's funeral service, P. Diddy got up and told a story, and he talked about what it was like to walk with Johnny. And he said that walking with Johnny Cochran was as though you were walking with somebody who had their own theme music, like the theme music to Shaft was playing as he walked. And so part of what Johnny had was that amazing ability to, he had that inner rhythm, that inner pace, that joie de vivre, and how he fed that. That's one of the places where I came in handy. One, we would get outside, we would interrupt the bombardment of data that he was having to sift through. We would interrupt the pattern of the workday and make sure that each day, no matter what had happened the day before and what was going to come in the day ahead, that he would have that reference point of clear skies, getting out and seeing the sky, walking, and then the centering work included that movement and some music, but then also just literally we would do a meditation. I took him through a brief guided meditation so that he just entered and was able to have that reference point of centeredness, so that no matter what got thrown at him, let's say he got thrown a little, most of us would never see it, but he would recover so quickly. And that was a great muscle. And he had that, was a finely honed muscle. His ability to get centered and stay poised under pressure.
I want to toss out this, wholesalers, while we're here, because you won't have Marc Vahanian in your hip pocket to help get you centered. I don't know if you've ever checked out the app Headspace. Check out the app Headspace. It'll walk you through guided meditation. You can do it for a minute. You can do it for 5 minutes. But it's something that I'd like you to have a look at if the calamity is getting to be a little too much and you want to kind of get a little bit more perspective and get a little more centered and grounded. So I went off on a tangent, Mark. I apologize.
It's actually perfect that you did that. I remember when the dot-com bubble burst, and I was working with about 200 advisors at a major services company, financial services company, and they were crushed. Their confidence was crushed. And many of them admitted to me privately that it was hard to pick up the phone and respond to the upset, the outrage, and the anger of their clients who were basically saying, "What happened to my money?" And again, this is where, of my 7 keys, there's 2. Key number 1 is purpose. Key number 6 is poise.
Before you go there,
yeah.
I just want to slip this in, because I don't know if I took you off the thought, and if I did, you'll go back to it. But I want to make sure that we set people up for just the whole concept of, how are you describing this thing, which is the book, which is what authentic confidence. Okay, I'm confident, but what is authentic confidence? Like I said in the intro, wholesalers generally do not lack confidence as we see it from the outside. We don't know it's churning inside, but from the outside, it looks pretty confident to me. But what is authentic confidence?
The first thing that I think of is when we think of the opposite of that. Sometimes, as you said, they look pretty confident. There's a certain bravado that sometimes masks as confidence. But authentic confidence doesn't look one particular way. But what authentic confidence has in common in terms of the different ways it's expressed is that it comes from that place inside that's backed by a connection with who you are as a person, what you care about. So authentic confidence, one example is at its most innocent. I remember when my son was maybe 5 years old, entered a park and went up to approach an older girl, maybe she was 8, and I saw him. He said, would you play with me? And it just, oh my gosh, I was so worried that, my little boy was going to get hurt, and his feelings hurt. And this lady said to him, the lady said right away, she said, this girl said, no.
His first rejection, his first official rejection.
Exactly. And I looked at him and I went, I held my breath. And I'm telling you, without missing a beat, he looked at her and he said, that's okay. I'll find someone else to play with.
Love that.
And not with attitude. It was just with that's the way life is. There's plenty of people to play with. So that was truly authentic confidence. Life hadn't beaten him up enough for him to even worry that, oh gosh, is there something wrong with me? He didn't ask that. He just took it in his stride. So authentic confidence, for one, is the ability to take whatever comes at you in stride, to not panic, even when there's something we don't know in the moment. It's remembering, wow, I've solved problems before. I may not know in this moment how to solve this one, but I know I can get there based on life's evidence, my experience, my know-how, my competency, which is proven. So it's not having amnesia when things go wrong and thinking, oh gosh, the sky is falling. No, I just don't have the whole picture in this moment.
So we don't.
I think when.
I was just going to say, I want to, in the interest of time, I want to break down some of these, and there's 7 of them. And wholesalers, we're not have a chance to get 7 of them, but I want to talk about a couple of them that'll give you an opportunity to harvest some insights from our guest today. So, under the category of one key to authentic confidence, and you started to allude to it a moment ago, was purpose.
Yes.
Tell us about purpose and how it helps me develop and refine my authentic confidence.
So it's a remarkably potent piece, but when we're clear about our purpose, that provides a level of meaning for us, so that it's no longer about something as small as a short-term need, like I need to make this sale. Now, purpose is bigger than the short term. Purpose is something that allows me to sustain myself through some difficult challenges, and gives me the confidence because I know I'm doing the right thing. Here's a quick example. My father was in World War II, was on the B-17 bombers, and he flew 35 missions. And for those of you who know your World War II history, you know that there were not a lot of bombing teams that survived 35 missions. The B-17s were utilized to go basically from England and into the heart of Germany. Now, this is a rough topic, but the reason I'm bringing it up is I've read my father's diary, and for every one of those 35 missions, those men, and certainly my father, was frightened. He would get on that plane knowing that some of them were not going to come back. And so you ask yourself, so what is it that allowed all those young men to get on those planes knowing that some of them were just never going to make it back? Purpose. They were clear about their purpose. It was black and white, and they really believed with all their hearts. They knew they were doing the right thing to fight for freedom, not only for America, but for the rest of the world. So purpose is a very powerful and potent element of this notion of confidence. It allows us to have the difficult conversation. Purpose lets you have, as an advisor, have that conversation with a client that you may not have if your purpose around service, around adding value, wasn't so clear.
Is purpose always such a, and I don't say this disingenuously, such a higher, is it always such a higher purpose? I mean, you reference bomber pilots in the war. I mean, that you could argue it was the highest purpose. You know, they were defending the country. They were bleeding red, white, and blue. I mean, that's the highest purpose, perhaps.
Well, let's aim one, Rob, that's a little closer to what financial services folks do.
Yes.
So how about if your purpose was to make sure that every one of your clients had a that enough funds at the end of the day to retire on and live on comfortably? What if that nest egg you were helping them build and protect, that was your purpose, that they were going to, because you were so good at your job, you helped them make the most of their life's work to grow their savings and live a good life and look after the safety and well-being of their family. That could be the purpose.
Can I be authentically Can I adhere to your concept of authentic confidence under the heading of purpose if my purpose is to make a whole bunch of money and provide good things for my family? Is that purpose too?
Of course it is. If I want to put food on the table for my family, that's a fine purpose. And then building into it, my own experience is the broader we can get it, so that we want to help in, or how am I going to do that putting food on the table? You know, am I going to do something that my family's going to feel good about how we got that food? That starts to grow and give more texture to that sense of purpose.
Mm. All right, so one of the 7 is purpose. Another of the 7 is poise. Tell us about that.
Well, I spoke a little bit about how powerful it was. When Johnny was doing the trial, how many things would get thrown at him. As a financial advisor, there are people who are going to say, why is that commission? Why do you charge the commission you do? Or why is this fee like this? So part of poise is, A, knowing your value and being able, with grace under pressure being pushback or an objection, grace under pressure to move with people and stay in relationship versus to tighten up and get defensive. Now, all of us at some point or another may feel defensive or tight, but the beauty of practice with poise is that you can recover your dignity with grace quicker and quicker as you practice. And I'll give you one quick practice right now, and that's simply this. Somebody says something that throws you. They go, Rob, why did you ask me that terrible question? Mm-hmm. And I go, and Rob right now would be the one. So Rob would take a breath, feel his feet on the ground, and he's bought that time, right? You buy yourself a moment by just taking a breath, sensing my feet on the ground, which helps anchor some of that energy, including like, wow, why would that guest say, I've asked this terrible question? I'm going to just take a breath and now find a way to stay in relationship with this rude guest. For some of you, it might be a rude client. But many times when somebody asks you something like that, somebody says, why are you charging so much? Or what? It's they're scared. Everybody's afraid they're going to be ripped off. And it's through your personal dignity, your clarity of purpose, that you're able to get your arms around them metaphorically and reassure them through your nervous system, your centered presence, your generosity of spirit that comes through this sense of purpose, that you're going to look after them and you're not here to harm them.
What?
And go ahead.
No, I want to understand What builds the poise muscle more than anything? Is it intellect that builds the poise muscle? Is it emotional intelligence that builds the poise muscle? If I'm gonna build the poise muscle, what should I be reading, absorbing, focusing on, centering on if I want to build that muscle? Because what you just talked about, Mark, this notion of, being rocked back on your heels, hell, that happens to a wholesaler every single damn day, 4 and 5 times a day, perhaps. So
absolutely, it happens in an email. We may see an email that throws us, and we can feel that way.
Yep.
And certainly part of poise, right, is not shooting off that quick reactive email. So what builds it is practice. But what do you practice? So one is literally buying yourself that moment where you take a breath. That allows the nervous system to literally recalibrate. And it's on that exhale that you could start to drain off some of that rising either rage or fear. You get to de-stress by exhaling, by feeling your feet on the ground. So that part, that's not an intellectual practice. That's what's called a somatic practice. Somatic being through the body. The way we show up, right, it's our nonverbal communication that communicates, like more than 83 to 93% of our communication is nonverbal. So much of poise is practiced nonverbally. Now, the verbal part, right, what we say and how we say it, is also a big part of that. But you can, through that moment, that beat you take to breathe, get your feet on the ground, and remember, you're going to get through this, and you've earned your place at the table already. So you've also earned the right to take a moment here so that you can take better care of this person instead of wringing their neck, which, maybe all of you are so civilized that doesn't occur to you, but there are a few of us that still have those impulses.
I'm one of them. So, but time will run out on us, and I want to get this extra question in.
Yeah.
There's a thought that I mentioned I wanted to get clarity on. What are 3 things that wholesalers should not be in their first client meeting with an advisor? So wholesalers, what should you not be in your first meeting with a financial advisor?
Well, my brother is a financial advisor, and he's been one for about over 25 years. So I've gotten feedback directly from someone who can be very candid with me about what he wants to see, as well as I've watched wholesalers in action. And there's 3 basic things. One, don't be so overeager and hungry to sell them, the advisor, anything.
And with that, Mark, so I want to frame it as the guy that works with wholesalers, the wholesaler coach. So we have to balance, that abject hunger to sell with patience, which will be rewarded later. And if management, you're listening, we don't necessarily get that sale first visit, second visit, third visit. And the good managers and the good firms understand it's a process to get there. So I'm honoring what you said, which is, it kind of falls into the heading of slow down, right?
There's no one law on this. There may be some advisor where you can do that, but most of them see you coming. They know you want to sell them something. So do the opposite on that first encounter. If you're just meeting an advisor, it's be curious about, hopefully you've done your homework.
Yep, we talk about that all the time.
Right? Do the homework. Find out as much as you can about what this advisor, whose money do they manage? What products are they already using? But by slowing down and being in less of a hurry to make your pitch, showing some genuine curiosity about who is this advisor? What's important to them? What are their concerns? What's working for them? What do their clients need? So it's less about you, and it's really all about them. It's in general like being a good waiter. How would you like your steak? Do you want steak?
Yep.
What do you want?
Yep.
How do you want it? And you're looking for something also that builds rapport, so that this is the beginning of a relationship that could go on for years. And if you show that kind of poise and professionalism by going slow, by recognizing that he already knows you want to sell him something, right? And that you're first just trying to meet as a one professional human being to another. That it's amazing how then and then you might find something that you can then deliver, and it might be something that came out of your conversation. It might be something about football. It might be something about a sports injury.
Sure. Anything
that builds some rapport and starts to build the beginnings of some trust, that you're not just out for yourself.
Okay, so the first thing would be I want to slow down. I don't want to be the wholesaler who is jamming product. That is not what I should be in my first client meeting with an advisor. What's another one?
Well, they go together so well, right? Don't be so in a hurry. Don't push your own. Don't make it all about you. Don't push your product, and just take your time. Take your time with it. Even though, and I know everybody's got stuff they've got to move, a product they're trying to move. It's have more faith that this process of relationship building. So instead of trying to don't make it transactional. Make it about relationship.
Wholesaler, the name of the book is Authentic Confidence, The 7 Keys. The author is Marc Vahanian. Marc, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Wholesalers, come back next time for another episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.